Welcome to Shred Stakes. I'm Mike Schretter, joined with Ryker Vance, and we're going to talk about the game last night. Miami Heat tied it up 1-1. And we're actually going to go through some different actions that Miami ran effectively, kind of just break it down for you guys, and see, how can Denver adjust to it? How can Miami continue to be successful with it? I think that's important. But first things first, Ryker, thanks for coming on.
Man, it's always a pleasure. You know that, Shrett. It's been a little while. I'm glad to be back. But I have been tuning into your show on AMP. Everyone, go run that up over there. But man, what a series, man! What a series! What a
Oh,
series!
absolutely. Before we get into the X's and O's a little bit, what were some of your big takeaways from Miami's win last night?
I think it was foreshadowed, man. I really do. I mean, I remember going, watching game one. I didn't know what to expect. I knew the Nuggets were really good, and I knew we were coming off a big 7 game series. We were probably going to be a little flat coming out the gate, and that's what we were. And they took advantage. They played relatively well, I think, but I think we played horribly, like poorly. We weren't making extra efforts on defense. We were getting wide open looks. The ball just wasn't going in, but we just didn't have that like sense of urgency that the NBA finals really, what it takes to win the NBA finals. And I think we, kind of took that game in. We took the hit, and then we went back out in game two, and we just delivered. We were hitting those shots that we weren't making in the first game. Getting multiple defensive efforts, which had them shoot a much worse percentage. And I think all in all, we were just the best team when it mattered the most. We came out hot, and the Nuggets probably won the next 20 or so minutes. Then we went on that run in the fourth, man, and we were able to put them away, just a little bit out of their reach, even though they played very well down the stretch. So I think as a Heat fan, I'm so excited. I think we got a chance, man. I had Heat in seven from the get go. I'm riding with my guys. But I'm not gonna be overjoyous about this win. It's just a game two win, man. Like they say, we got three more to go. So
So what I want to do now is let's go break down kind of a little bit of the offensive sets that Miami runs. This is something that they go to often. It's like the handoff ball screen action that either Gabe Vincent and Bam run or Jimmy Butler and Bam run a lot. So like the way that the Nuggets play it, I probably should have put the defense on there, but they ice it, which means they have like the big kind of not allowing the middle to happen and that they kind of force it to the baseline. The one thing that I find interesting on this that they're doing, so like they throw it in here, obviously handoff happens, and then I think the one thing they're doing well is they dribble off of that, and Bam just kind of rolls right to that like short roll area. At least from your standpoint, what makes that so dangerous? Like being able to roll to that short area and make plays. For those who
yeah,
may don't understand it.
yeah, no. If as a big, obviously, the pick and roll is kind of like a fundamental aspect of basketball. Like, and it's world renowned. Everyone knows it. But being able to pick in kind of mini roll, short roll, they call it, right into that like the weak spot of the defense, it makes the big on defense have to debate whether you got a fast guard coming off that screen. He could take it to the hole. He could dribble back out if the defender guarding the 2 man collapses just a little bit too much, is an easy three. So there's a lot of variables going on. And as a big man, you can set that screen and roll into the short area, and you could just catch that ball. And Bam's been working down there. Jokic isn't the best defender in the world, but he's a big human being. You know what I mean? So being able to make, one dribble pull ups right over a lengthy defender's hand, Bam's been doing it really well, man. And I think just having that aspect of his game, which he's been working on, he's been getting better and better each year with his mid range game, and I think it's all coming to fruition now.
Yeah, as people are looking at the screen right now, so like as Riker just talked about, like Bam's been shooting that mid range spot from right here really well, like that kind of 8 to 9 foot jump shot. But if you see the other action, the other side, there's like that's just like that stuff's all open because Jokic and the other guy guarding, let's say it's Jamal Murray, KCP, whoever, they're up trying to blitz the ball screen here. So since this is open, or that let's say they're here, Bam either has a help defender coming here, so then these guys are going to be open.
Yep.
And to their credit, last night they shot 49% from three, and that was a lot of just open shots.
Mhm.
Do you think this is something that can continue? Like, is this something that is there a way to guard this? You would say, like, is there a way that you can try and without just saying because the way Jokic is, I mean, you can't really switch it. So would you have
That,
to go
that
into like a zone to like combat this, or?
That's
I just think that like if they continuously try to blitz the ball screen, this is going to continue to happen every single time.
Yeah, no, Jokic makes it difficult. And that was one of the like my main like reasons why I felt that he could win the series because Jokic is, like I said, he's not a defense, he's not a horrible defensive player, but he is somewhat of a liability out on the perimeter, making plays within the pick and roll. And we've been able to expose that. There's definitely a way. Look, I'm not the one to say it. And I think, I think the Nuggets will figure it out. You know what I mean? But I think it's very important for the Heat to continue to allow Bam to work because the way he's been playing these past two games, he can't go back into, Bam has his highs and lows sometimes, especially as a Heat fan. I've seen it time and time again. I love the way they're incorporating him into the offense, and I think he's the key because I think if he makes Jokic work as much on defense as he does on offense, it tires him out throughout the game. It's just there's a whole nother level to that. So I love the way the Heat are, incorporating Bam. I mean, look, I don't think going zone against the Heat's a good idea because as a team, we're like the only team we're known for that for playing 2-3. So we've seen a lot of 2-3 reps. We've probably seen some 1-3-1. I don't know what else the Nuggets got in store, but look, as a Heat fan, I'm hoping they don't find out. I'm hoping they don't find out because I'm loving seeing Bam go for 20 and 10 every night. I'm loving it.
Yeah. I think those are all really valid points. Something else I wanted to quickly just share up here is I kind of had some action to try and figure out how you try to combat the zone. Let me just pull it up here. You gotta find it for a second here. Yeah, right here. I think this was just something that I thought was maybe a way you can try and combat it. So, like, for those who are wondering, the Heat play different kinds of zones. They play like a extended 2-3, or they go like this 1-3-1. They've been running way more 1-3-1, I think, in this series. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I think they've been taking away that like high post because Jokic is just so good in that high post. You don't want to let him get the ball. But like this was a way I thought you could combat it. Like you have to have a guy like screen that middle guy, and then you have Jokic kind of like fly up from behind Bam and get to that elbow area. But with the problem with that too is then again, if he catches it right, Bam's going to be right there, and they haven't been shooting the three that well in this series. So like I guess from your standpoint, why like because in the NBA I just don't think zones should work, and somehow this is working. Is it because of their just like activity? Is it because of their rotations? Is it that their ball pressure? I seem to think it's more their ball pressure on the ball that's making it tough, and then the guys in the middle just do a really good job of fighting to not allow that middle to be open. But what are your thoughts about why the zone is effective?
No, I think ball pressure is the key to everything because if you have pressure on the ball, it makes every single pass harder, every dribble, every cut, and it just kind of stalls the offense. I think you mentioned it. Our activity, our multiple efforts, our rotations will make one rotation, then another, and then they might get a good look. But after all that, man, it's a lot of offense. It's a lot harder to hit that shot than it is just a rhythm, catch and shoot three. Look, the Nuggets have been missing shots that they haven't normally been missing, which is a little bit concerning as a Heat fan for sure. But I would say we are too. I think that's just the finals, man. I think that's just how it goes. There's going to be games where they can't miss, we can't miss, and you just kind of have to weather the storm, whoever side you're on. That's just ball. But I think I just give credit to the Heat, man, to the Heat. I mean, they just like our defense. I would say was more highly feared last year. You know what I mean? Just because we were the number one seed, but we still have all those principles. We got the same guys, same dogs who are willing to work for it. I'm wondering if you see anything else other than that ball pressure really coming into play here, other than just grit and wanting it more.
Well, again, they're not allowing Jokic to catch it middle, right? So I think that's something that is making it more difficult to allow him to be effective. The one thing that's like the one other thing I would say, the rotations also are really good. Like when they spray out the shooters really well, which in the zone you have to do that because everyone says you get in the middle, it's like the death sentence in the zone because you are basically inviting either a cutter on the baseline or a shooter, and they're doing a great job. I mean, I give them credit. I mean, look, the one thing I want to ask you is, the Spoelstra got kind of ticked off at Ramona Shelburne's comments yesterday when she said, "Oh, you're just making Jokic a scorer," which is what I thought they were doing. It's a little bit more complicated that for like, I mean, obviously what they're doing is they're not digging a hole. They're not like doubling hard on Jokic. They're digging a little bit, but they're kind of just allowing Bam to play single coverage one-on-one, and they're staying home on the shooters. I think the biggest thing they really changed up were two things, which as a Heat fan, I think you were probably maybe thinking the same thing. Kevin Love in the starting lineup to put on Aaron Gordon. And the second thing was blitzing every ball screen for Jamal Murray, which only allowed him to shoot 15 shots. What else did you think was effective for allowing Jokic to only have 4 assists last night?
Yeah, I think Kevin Love in the starting lineup is just another absolute beautiful chess move by Coach Eric Spoelstra, man. Because not only, like you said, on the offensive end, he spreads the floor, hard worker, takes a charge, does all the little things that you need. And then defensively, he's able to guard Aaron Gordon so he doesn't get 14 points on Gabe Vincent in the first quarter. And then it switches Jimmy Butler on to Jamal Murray. Jimmy Butler is a phenomenal on-ball defender. I saw a stat. It was like there was 4 times in game 1 where Jamal Murray and Jimmy Butler were face-to-face or head-on, guarding each other. 22 times in game 2. And, Jamal Murray didn't have as good of a game. And I think that's just Jimmy Butler, man. I mean, he's an all-time defender, all-time hard worker. He's just making them work. And I think, I think Jamal's stat line paid the price. Now he'll bounce back. He's a phenomenal player. But I think just in total, it's just like the Heat's confidence in everyone on the squad. And what I mean by that is you got a guy like Max Strus, man. Like he goes 0 for 10 in the first game, 0 for 9 from 3. I'm watching the game. I'm like, yo, sometimes that ball don't be going in. I was more disappointed in his lack of effort on the defensive end because there was multiple times where I was like, yo, like he missed a rotation, he missed this. You can't be not shooting well and
that's
not
defensive guy in you right there. That's definitely you.
Man. I mean, come on. Like sometimes that ball don't go in, but you got to lock down. He came out this game with a different type of energy. You could see it from the jump. And that first shot went in, and it was like, nope, we ran a play for him first play. And we were like, no, you got so many open looks last game. They just weren't going in. They're going in today. And he made them pay. And then, fast forward to the fourth quarter, you put in a guy, Duncan Robinson. He's played like 5 minutes the whole game. You're like, no, you're going in there and you're contributing. Like we trust you. And he goes in there, shoots the best shots for the group, and they go in. And that's just Heat ball, man. That's Heat basketball. It's a wonderful thing to watch as a basketball fan, as a basketball player, because having that level of trust in your guys. Jimmy Butler says it all the time. Like, no, like I see it every day. I trust everyone on this team to go out there and do everything we can to win. And I think that's what makes the Heat a viable contender for the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was watching something the other day, and they were saying like top 5 contenders for next season. Heat weren't even mentioned, and I'm saying, I get they were an 8th seed this year, but that was just because, in my opinion, of injuries. I would say a lack of focus. Honestly, I think their focus was pretty terrible. I do. Jimmy Butler was kind of coasting, to be honest. Like compared to what he plays in the playoffs, he was coasting. I don't think he went out with that mentality, but I think he was trying to get his guys involved because he knew he needed them later on.
Yeah.
But I think someone that he needs a shout out right now, and I'm going to give it to him, is Gabe Vincent. And the one thing I will say is, look, I still had the Nuggets winning in 7. I picked that at the beginning. I'm not going to back off of it just because when I make my predictions, I got to stick to it. But the one thing that I think, the reason why I think it's 7 games is because of the role players. But I think Gabe Vincent is, a guy who's, really blossomed into that like third option. And, I think he's a guy that really good shooter. I sometimes think he needs to be more aggressive. And, my dad and I were talking about it last night. We were just kind of saying, watching the game, this guy's a great shooter. He should be shooting a lot more of the shots. I get Bam has been playing well. I get Jimmy Butler's Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Butler hasn't really been playing that great. He had big shots late, but what do you, but minus all that soliloquy I just mentioned, what's your thoughts about Gabe Vincent and his value to the team and how he, embodies Heat culture to an extent?
Yeah, no. I believe if you go back in the archives and go to last year's podcast talking about the NBA playoffs and the Miami Heat, your boy might have mentioned Gabe Vincent as a possible breakout star. Now we're gonna have to go back for that, but I saw it last year, man.
We'll
I
find the
mean,
tape.
find the tape. Find the tape. He came off the bench last year in the Celtics, and he like greatly contributed to us getting to 7 games. And I could see flashes. And obviously, he's been working in the offseason, man. Because when his time was called, Lowry went down with injury in about February, I think. He stepped right into that lineup, man, and he hasn't looked back. Lowry does better for us off the bench, and that's just veteran leadership right there. Same with Kevin Love, man. They don't care when they get in, how they get in. When they're in, they going they going to compete. And I think just it's all the credit in the world to Vincent. You know what I mean? So a guy who's had not a very conventional journey to the NBA. Just a guy that just put his nose down and worked and is paying off for him. I think the way just because he's a point guard, I don't mind him not being more aggressive because maybe though he's not getting a ton of assists, but him bringing the ball down on offense and getting other guys involved, like our shooters, like a Jimmy Butler, I think he does that wonderfully, just like within his
Jimmy
role.
Butler's a shooter.
I said shooters, and then I said Jimmy Butler. hey, in clutch time, Jimmy Butler's a shooter. Jimmy Butler's a
Don't get me
shooter.
wrong. Jimmy Butler is my top 5 rating for players. So I mean,
Hey
it's
man,
all jokes aside.
no, of course, no, but man, just all that it was a big call out, man. Big shout out to Gabe Vincent. He's been hooping, and he's one of the reasons why we're here, and he's one of the reasons why the Heat are going to win in 7.
Okay, so final things I want to kind of talk about right now are a couple things. One is, what adjustments do the Heat need to do? Because we know that Denver's going to come back. They're going to run through that 2-man action with Murray and Jokic, which is really hard to guard, right? What is the strategy there? That's what first question. And second question is, do you think it's necessary to have Hero back in the lineup? Because he seems to think that he supposedly quoted that he may feel like he's going to disrupt the rhythm of the team. Do you believe his statement? And again, the first question is, what adjustments should the Heat make? Because it's important for the Heat to make adjustments as well and not get complacent with the win in game 2.
Yeah, no. I would say adjustment wise, I think we still have to pressure Jokic more. I mean, look, he's the best player in the league, so there's no containing that. I like the way we didn't double team as much this time around in game 2. I think it led to more turnovers and less assists from Jokic, and the other guys not getting involved as much. I'd love to see it even less though, especially if we got Bam on him, man. If we have Bam on Jokic, and Jokic isn't within 10 feet of the hoop, I think Bam's one of the top 5 defenders in the league. You know what I mean? I think he can handle to a degree what Jokic brings to the table. I think a guy like Highsmith can do it. I don't know if Zeller can do it. I know Jimmy Butler can do it. So I would say if they come out heavy with that 2-man game, got Jimmy and Bam or Highsmith, I think Haywood Highsmith is a big time contributor, and I think he needs to play even more in game 3, especially when we're home. I think those 3 defenders, if we're able to either switch, hard hedge, kind of just disrupt Murray and Jokic, can like further on, we kind of got to Murray a little bit. Jokic, we made more so of a scorer, quote unquote. No, Eric Spoelstra wouldn't like that. I think that's what we have to focus on going into game 3, because I think if we play with that same intensity and that same ball pressure, I think the other guys will not outperform our guys. And then going on to your second question, I mean,
It's tough, right? Because Hero is a really talented piece.
yeah,
But the issue with, again, I can see why your question is just, I sit there and he's a more ball dominant player.
mm-hmm.
And, I think if you're going to bring him, you got to bring him off the bench. You can't start him.
Oh, no. Yeah, for sure.
But then
I mean,
whose spot does he take? Does he take, Highsmith's spot, right? Does he take a Caleb Martin spot, which those guys have been valuable. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just like,
no,
I could
no,
tell what you're thinking.
no, you're good. It's a debate, man. It really is, because I mean, he was our regular season scorer. He was a 20-point a game guy. You know what I mean? And obviously, he could put it in. Like he could put that ball in the rim, man. But we got a certain flow with a certain group of guys right now. I think we can incorporate him in. I truly do. It's going to be off the bench and it's going to be low minutes first. If I do see him having a big time role, it would be in a game 5, 6, 7 later on down the road, if need be, whatever. But yeah, I think we got to start him off slow, both for his mental and physical health, as well as like the health of the group. You know what I mean? Because he's going to take some shots. He's going to take some shots from some guys. It's probably going to be a Robinson, a Martin, or a Struess. And those guys, I think those guys will be okay with it, but he just has to come in and play his game. You know what I mean? As a Heat fan, I want him to go out there and play like Tyler Hero. I don't want him to go out there and play like not like, you know what I mean? Like what I don't want you to do that. I want you back. I want you back. I don't want a fake Tyler Hero, man. I want him to be just as aggressive, but don't take ill-advised shots and play defense. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. But I think Coach Bo and the rest of that coaching staff will figure it out. I'm excited to have him back.
No, no, absolutely. I think that if you're from Denver's spot, I think what they're going to have to do is, I think they have to try and incorporate Porter Jr. early. I think they have to run some pin downs for him, more handoffs for him. I think with Jamal Murray, frankly, I think that they're going to have to run more handoffs and less ball screens because the Miami blows up those ball screens. And the third thing I would say for Denver is I think they actually have to mix up what defenses they run. I think they have to pull a little bit of the Heat bag a little bit. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if you see a zone from Denver. I wouldn't be shocked. Now they probably won't because I think their pride will be like we can play man to man. I just don't think their hedging ball screens work. I don't. I think it's a 7-game series because it's just like it's important. But my last question before we sign off here is, why do you think it's important that people actually watch this finals and not just think about it as like a joke?
Dude, this is like real basketball, man. Like the
That's what I've
NBA,
been saying.
like if the only criticism, or not the only, but the biggest criticism surrounding the NBA is that like they don't really play basketball because they're that good. You know what I mean? They just kind of come down as ISO ball in the wing. You know what I mean? If with certain guys in the league, it's not a ton of defense being played. It's not as man. This is basketball. This is just two coaches trying to out scheme the others and players going out there and fighting for it. And even though it's not the prettiest of version of basketball, it's you got to respect the grit, man. You got to respect, when you're just in the trenches, the way the Heat play and the way the Nuggets played, the way the Nuggets can't play. Don't get me wrong. The Nuggets are Jokic is the best player in the league. They're in Denver. I don't watch a lot of Denver Nuggets games. I ain't gonna lie, especially during the regular.
Not many people do. Their games are on
It's
late.
not on. So it's amazing to be able to see him play at his highest prime on the biggest stage. That's amazing. Jamal Murray deserves a ton of credit. Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., all those guys, man. And the Heat, obviously, we're our own story, man. We're our own story. A seed. It's just like it's a journey of overcoming obstacles. I mean, how could you not like it? How could you not like it, man? I don't know. I don't know.
I think it teaches people what good basketball is. It's interesting. Kyrie came out and supposedly he wants LeBron to come to the Mavericks with him and Luka. And I was saying there, and like, I just don't think super teams work because that doesn't like embody good basketball. Like these two teams have proven that you really need one star, one superstar, another star, and then good ancillary pieces. And I think that however the series turns out, I think that these two teams are going to be contending again. I think the Nuggets are going to be the favorites in the West for the next couple of years. And Miami, should be considered the favorite. No one's going to consider them that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're back in the finals again next year, just because people are going to doubt them again and whatever. But to end it off, appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your insight. It'll be interesting to see how the series continues. Maybe we can get back on and talk about it maybe later in the series see if those adjustments we kind of talked about come to fruition. But always good chatting with you.
Yeah, sure. Always a pleasure, man. Appreciate you having me on.